I'm Shauna Rosner, your host of In-House Counsel Chronicles, a podcast designed to chronicle the career journeys of in-house counsel so we can collectively learn from their unique paths to their in-house position, the challenges they've overcome, the milestones they have faced and celebrated, and how they're shaping the future of law in today's rapidly changing business environment. Today, my guest is Tania Bryant, Chief of Cybersecurity and Technology Regulation at Marsh. Tania attended Virginia Tech, where she received a BS in Marketing Management and obtained her JD from Western New England University School of Law. She also received a Master of Science in Cybersecurity from University of Maryland Global Campus in 2018 and obtained a Master's in Management and Leadership from Webster University in 2020. Quite impressive. She has built her career at the intersection of law, cybersecurity, data governance, and risk, with previous experience at Dell, the FDIC, and the United States Air Force. Today, we'll discuss leadership, AI, cybersecurity, and the evolving role of in-house counsel. Welcome to the podcast, Tania.
Thank you so much for having me, Shauna. I'm excited to be here.
So your career path is incredibly impressive, as I already shared, and unique. It spans military service, government technology, and now professional services. Looking back, what were the defining moments that shaped your career?
I would call them pivot points. There were these moments where I started to feel interested or curious about a sort of a different trajectory or a different topic. And so then I paid closer attention to where those opportunities were for me to explore those areas of curiosity. So at one point in my career, it was sort of a natural progression for JAGs or military attorneys to go on to manage a small team. And I wanted to work in investigations. So I ended up putting my name in the hat to go work for the Air Force Office of Special Investigation. I had somebody tell me, that's where Air Force careers go to die as a JAG. And it didn't deter me because I had such a fantastic working relationship with the agents already at my first two assignments. And I really wanted to see more of that. And I still think it's one of the most favorite jobs I've ever had. It was so much fun. And while I was there, which was basically an in-house team of lawyers that were active duty Air Force supporting the Air Force Office of Special Investigation mission, while I was there, I learned about internal investigations and audits. That's where I got exposed to cybersecurity. So it's incredible because had I not pursued that area of interest, that opportunity for a pivot, I wouldn't be doing cyber today. Similarly, at the end of my Air Force time, I had started to want to do a master's in cybersecurity at a time that attorneys were getting LLMs and looking into national security law because that's what was really prevalent at the time. And I want to go do a master's in cybersecurity because I wanted to understand the technological aspect of cybersecurity before this was a career path. And I had a really well-meaning mentor say, attorneys really should go get LLMs. And it stopped me for a moment. And I really did consider maybe that's the right path. But that interest in how there's an opportunity here to be the attorney that helps to translate technology into policy, technology into compliant operations. So I went and I got the master's, and again, no regrets. I took that opportunity to sort of pivot into a specialization that wasn't prevalent yet. And with that came a later pivot to go into a cybersecurity role at FDIC and not really know what that was going to entail because cybersecurity legal roles, that was one of the first few that I'd seen where it was dedicated to that field. And so again, after FDIC, I was like, okay, now I want to see what the private sector has to offer from a global operations standpoint instead of sort of just federally focused. And it was scary because again, it was something I didn't know, but I felt really strongly that I wanted to see the bigger picture. And again, no regrets. It was such a great opportunity. So, I would say those defining moments were the opportunities to pivot and taking those opportunities, even though they were scary.
What I really love about what you shared is that you listened to what I would call your inner voice. And
yes,
that allowed you to make these pivots, which ended up to be change your career course or develop your career course.
Yes, 100%. I would say that I followed my curiosity. And I think, we spend so much of our lives working. I wanted to spend that time doing something that I think is exciting or fun, right? Like, so why not chase it with, and it feels risky at the time, but it's so rewarding too, because there is sort of this traditional mindset of your career path should be linear, but oftentimes linear means following somebody else's path. So finding what's yours based on your interests, 100%, gut instinct, internal voice, curiosity. I think they're all sort of in the same vein or school of thought.
Very true about that career path not always being linear. And I love what you said about it being maybe somebody else's path if it is linear. I haven't heard it reflected in quite that way, but that really resonates. So thanks for sharing that. I want to go back to the military for a minute. What lessons from the military have stayed with you throughout your career?
I have one I think about all the time. It's the realization that you don't need to know the answer to know that you can find it. To have that confidence of, I have never seen this problem before, and I still know I can handle it. Because when you come in as a baby JAG, as I remember us calling it, you are asked the whole gamut of questions, and you've seen nothing before. This is your first job out of law school for a lot of the JAGs that enter the military. So you have to go find it. You have to research it. You have to find instances, use cases, examples of things that have happened in the past. And you're also trying to find the right people that have been exposed to similar circumstances in the past. I keep saying past. And then you have to deliver that legal opinion or that legal memo. And so it's really trial by fire. You're thrown in on the deep end and you have to swim. And at first, it was very alarming that you're trusting me to give you this answer when I don't know what I'm doing. But you very quickly start to realize, oh, I do know how to do this because I know how to go find the answer. And that has stayed with me my entire career. It helped to build that confidence so that when I have a question today that I've never faced before, that's at a different intersection, because now I have all of these business functions I support, I know I can go find the answer. And with that has come the ability to instill that trust in my stakeholders and my execs, right? Like they know that I can go do it because I know I can go do it.
I didn't even get to touch on, though, like what led you to go into the military in the first place?
The practicalities of needing my education paid for. That was part of it. And my dad was in the Army. So there was this desire to kind of figure out what that's all about. And also the knowledge, like if I do this right, I can have my education covered. And so that was a big deal because I was the first one in my family to go to college, after high school. My mom eventually got her bachelor's in night school, like working a full-time job. But this experience where you go live on a campus, that had not happened ever in my family. So this was a way to enable that vision for my future, which was to go get that bachelor's. And so I went to Virginia Tech on an Air Force scholarship, and about 2 years in, I thought, okay, well, I want to go to law school. What does that entail? It's always been there, the desire to go to law school I think since I was 11 or 12. But, you're faced with, this is new and I don't know how to do it. I want to go to law school. I have the scholarship. I have a commitment to commission into the Air Force afterwards. And so I just started to research it. And there was a program that allowed you to take a break to go to law school and then return to the Air Force. So I applied for that, took all the tests, and then I got to do that. I got to do my 3 years in law school. And then when I graduated and passed the bar, I got to commission in the Air Force as a JAG.
It's amazing. And then to think you went on for, all these other masters too. It's just truly incredible. Much of your career has involved building and operationalizing programs. What have you learned about creating something from the ground up?
I've learned that you need to understand the nature of the machine you work for, your company, right? Like if you want to operationalize anything, you need to understand how the system works and you need to understand who the key stakeholders are. And that's not always the people with the titles. That's the people with the influence. Who are the people that need to be at the table to facilitate the program you're trying to build? I think too often when you are tasked or assigned the responsibility of building a program, folks think they have to do it on their own, right? This is my responsibility. I need to make it happen. You ultimately are responsible for that program, but you cannot do it alone. And if you enter into the building mentality as it's on me, it's going to be so much harder to see it succeed. And also, it's a lot less fun. So find your key stakeholders, bring folks to the table, think across silos. I feel like operating in silos is very 15 years ago. It's time to bring cross functions to the table to achieve objectives. It also builds efficiencies at a time where there's really no corporate tolerance for redundancies. So that would be my key takeaway. You need to know the business and you need to know the stakeholders.
I think that's really great advice. I'm seeing this in real time when I'm working with companies trying to place their next general counsel. And this is exactly what they're saying they need.
Yeah.
Your position spans cybersecurity, data compliance, AI, and risk management. How has the role of in-house counsel evolved over the course of your career?
It goes back to that notion of I came into the legal field at a time where it was heavily siloed. And I think that it's interesting too, because you had posed the question outside of the recording, basically what's a common misconception about cybersecurity. And I think it both align with sort of in-house counsel roles as well. And that's that it's one thing, right? And same true for attorneys. We only do one thing. We give legal advice. We tell you no, really. That's sort of the old misconception. But it's all about partnerships. And so for in-house counsel, the idea that you can sort of sit in at a desk and focus on your one legal issue, whatever your discipline is, I think that's, again, we're moving away from that model. And it's really, let me understand your need. And that need might operate across multiple legal questions and multiple legal disciplines. And it might actually it might call on you to be utilizing those critical thinking skills more than sort of what is the law at play here, and pull in other legal disciplines to give a fulsome answer. And so I think that's where we're moving, is really understand the need of the business and the need of the person asking the question. And, I think as we evolve too in our careers and we learn as we go, you realize that the question being asked isn't always the question that's really the issue. And you only figure that out by having those conversations and trying to understand the need instead of just answering the question that's being posed. So just continuing more in that cross-functional direction and thinking bigger than just the legal question. Truly, how do I add value as your advisor across the board?
Yeah. So what I'm hearing you say is that lawyers are increasingly becoming business leaders in-house.
Yes. Well, they can be.
They can be.
Mindset. Yeah.
That's right. That's true. The right mindset. So what skills do you think are important to build that correct mindset?
I think there's certainly the ability to look past just the question being asked and really think about, what does my business do? What does this corporation do? How does it make its revenue? And then truly, what's the stakeholder asking me and what's their objective, right? And sometimes that's not clear. They ask you a question. Can I do X? Can I do Y? But get in there and ask, well, what do you need to do X for? What's the ultimate goal? And and sort of, just because you're running up against a challenge doesn't mean you can't find a different approach to still get them where they need to go. So think about what's lost if you never find that different approach. You tell them, no, you can't do X. They go back and they don't do X. But if you can help them get to Y because you understand where they're trying to go, now you're a partner. And that is invaluable. And it's, again, I go back to, it's a lot more fun too. I'd also say there's an element of self-awareness, right? And I really believe in sort of emotional intelligence in the workplace it helps your personal life too. But if you're trying to lead teams, if you want to be a business partner, there's an element of like, do you understand where your value lies and what you bring to the table? But also, do you understand where you have opportunities to improve? And once you identify those opportunities to improve what you offer, how are you supplementing and working on those in your sort of your own time to make sure that you sort of are a well-rounded executive that people want to partner with?
That's super valuable insight. Thank you for sharing that with us. I want to shift gears a little bit, focus a little bit on cybersecurity. It's no longer just an IT issue, it's a boardroom issue.
Mhm.
What do you wish more business leaders understood about cybersecurity?
I will say that because of where I'm situated at that intersection of risk ops data, I will say luckily those business leaders understand that. But as you get away from those tech fields and into the boardroom, I think sometimes we think about AI as its own thing. We think about privacy as its own thing. We think about cybersecurity as its own thing. That's just not the way it works. It used to be that we called it information security, right? And it was you have to protect the network. That's still true. You have to protect the network. But why are we protecting the network? Because our valuable data is on that network and because we don't want enforcement actions and fines if it gets breached. So today, cybersecurity is data security, which also happens to be AI risk and AI governance. It has that component of it, right? Because what is AI using to produce its responses or its efficiency? It's using data. It's going to use data. It's going to make more data. So what are we doing to protect the environment? So I think to understand cybersecurity in a fulsome way is to understand that cybersecurity is third-party risk management. It's data risk. It's AI risk, and bring either ensuring that your companies have a well-rounded group of subject matter experts that cover all of that and that you are being briefed on the entire picture and not just one piece of it. Some might think cybersecurity is enterprise risk management. Come in and tell me what our enterprise security posture is and how we're doing on minimizing those risks. That's just one flavor of cybersecurity. You're not getting the fact that it's actually ice cream. You're just focused on strawberry. So that would be my emphasis is we need to be empowered at these higher levels to ask those questions and ask about all of the angles and all of the aspects of what really cybersecurity is about.
So that makes sense. So it's kind of like going back to that ice cream analogy, you're kind of making a sundae. You can't just take one scoop. You've got to look at all of those kind of
Yes.
together.
Yes. Yes. And they're different. They're often different functions. Like you're going to have, your security group, but there's different functions within that. And your AI governance may not fall under your security group and your data governance may not fall under your security group. So do you know that, are your business leaders, the ones that are presenting these issues to the board, do they have visibility into those other sections that sort of contribute to the overall posture for a company?
Okay, so as AI is changing really every industry, including legal, how are you thinking about AI governance, both from a legal and a business perspective?
That's such a good question. AI governance is such a amorphous subject, right? So there's this element of AI governance that's risk management. So you have AI risk frameworks and sort of building that into your corporate posture. And so from a legal and corporate standpoint, I really see that as very key to growing into mid risk management from an AI standpoint. It's having that framework within a company. And so that risk framework should be something that lawyers are plugging into. And I'm not entirely certain that that's true across the board. Because again, you're seeing like companies stand up the AI officer. So then the AI officer has their team. Do you have lawyers plugging into that team? Do you have lawyers that are partnering with that team? Because an AI risk framework becomes the way that we think about risk. It becomes the way that we mitigate risk. It becomes the way we report on risk. in my opinion, we should have an attorney that is a partner. If you're working with clients that want to know what your AI posture is, that want to know that you have guidelines and a framework. So having that legal partner is so important. And because it's new and growing and building right now, this is the opportunity for attorneys to volunteer, right? Like, yes, I know that's not me, but I'm happy to help. Let me know if you have questions about that. Or pinging folks. Do we have a framework that we're thinking about? Do we have plans for AI governance and building out a program around that? Can I attend the meetings? Can we talk about it? Let's set up a one-on-one. I'd love to pick your brain. I think that's how we become involved. And I think it's so necessary as this field continues to boom. And also as we kind of creep towards what will one day be sort of the crypto craze instead of the AI craze. I'm sorry, not crypto, quantum. As we move into the challenges that will come with that. If we're partnered here now on the technology side in AI governance, then we'll be well poised when quantum becomes an issue as well.
Can you touch on that?
I probably am not even to fully define it, but for me, from a security standpoint, there's an expectation that once quantum computing comes into play, the encryption methodologies that we use today will be irrelevant because quantum can break it. So we do have the National Institute of Standards and Technology that are issuing recommendations for different encryption keys in order to combat what will be sort of post-quantum encryption challenge. But on top of just the security risk of quantum, the computing power, I think is going to change the way we think even about AI because of the speed at which it moves. So increased speed to security threat and in security, exploiting security vulnerabilities. We're already seeing that now. But also I like to think about the upside, which is like, ooh, what can we do when we can move that much faster? What can we build? How can we better secure things? How can we evaluate risk even faster and more effectively once we're sort of in the next era of, technology evolution?
In terms of data governance, you spent a significant amount of your career focused there. Why is data governance becoming such a critical issue for companies and organizations?
Well, I love this question. For me, data security and cybersecurity to me, I think are very, in so many ways, the same thing. I'm sure that all of my security partners will hate that I said that. Yes, you still have to secure the network, but how you secure your data is extremely relevant to that position because ultimately, why secure a network if you have nothing worth stealing? And so that's where data security comes in. So once you're in the data security kind of arena and you're thinking about like, okay, how do we protect it? We encrypt it. We have MFA, we have access controls. There's also an element of like, how much do you have? Do you know where it is? What are your disposition mechanisms to sort of reduce your threat surface? And also so you can comply with regulations. And the reason it's becoming a hot button issue more and more so with every passing day and why I'm busier and busier on this topic is because the regulations are evolving in that space as well. It used to be that you only thought about data mapping in the context of privacy rights, right? You have an individual, they want to have their stuff deleted. There's California Consumer Privacy Act, there's GDPR, there's so many. But today, it's not just about the consumer rights and their privacy. It's about regulators caring that companies are securing that sensitive data. Sometimes because of the impact that a breach would have on the economy. Sometimes because they are kind of keeping an eye in the direction of those private rights, but still putting the onus on the companies instead of the individual to pursue that disposition. And because regulators care, now you have businesses holding each other accountable to the protections and regulatory obligations that are being proliferated by those regulators. So it's growing is a point of compliance for companies. And it is a huge challenge if you're a company that's been around for a while, because that data sprawl just keeps growing and we want to use that data for AI. So also there's an element of like, how do you de-identify stuff so that you can still leverage it from an analytics standpoint? So I see this continuing to grow. And like I said earlier, how it plugs in is it's going to be security. Is it security adjacent in a different part of the department? As attorneys, it's just important to know it exists and to go insert yourself and learn so that you can make sure that you're thinking about it holistically.
I was going to ask you what role legal should play in that conversation. And I think you just answered that. Kind of need to initiate yourself in the conversation.
Yes, it's really a lot about partnership. And part of it is knowing that these issues exist. So where are you at the intersection of some of these laws, right? Like
Mhm.
we have insurance regulations that have a data compliance component. We have SEC regulations that have a data compliance component. Internationally, the EU is very forward leaning in incorporating a data management, data compliance component into their financial regulations. So basically, where are you situated in a company? What kind of advising are you doing? And then educating yourself on, okay, well, what are regulations that are sort of adjacent to the work that I do that impact our compliance posture so that we can make sure that we're mitigating. We know the risk exists is the starting point, and then we're considering like how do we want to mitigate that. And and again, those discussions are really what elevate a legal career too, to not just be the person that identifies the problems, but actually is being a participant in a conversation about, okay, well, what's our risk appetite? We can't do it all. How do you triage it? What's an okay triage approach to like how we address this issue? To me, that's like next level legal advising. Just saying we're not compliant is one thing. Saying, okay, what are the various risks with that non-compliance? And how do we mitigate it? And maybe you can't do it all today. So what's our long-term plan?
So one thing I've heard you mention kind of a few times now is valuing a culture of openness and collaboration. How do you build trusted relationships across functions like IT, information security, and the business?
My advice there is very pragmatic, I think, which is like leave the ego at the door.
Mm-hmm.
Because look, we're smart people. We are great at critical thinking. We don't know everything. And so my philosophy since being in the JAG has been like, teach me. I'm interested. Tell me about what you do. And, and I get in the weeds and I do think that doesn't have to be everybody's style because some people are big picture thinkers. I like to understand how things work because I can't make a positive change in something if I don't understand the pieces. That's just how my brain works. So when I was a JAG, it was like, tell me about your interview strategy. Can I sit and watch? It wasn't about, I'm going to advise you on these elements of the offense. Like if it wasn't my case, I still wanted to be there and watch how it was done. And I was always so impressed because it's just not my skill set. I think everybody's telling the truth. And so watching the way that they work, I was like, hey, can I join you when you're going to go collect evidence so I can watch how it's done? Because when you are exposed to that, you advise better. And so same thing, like if you're in a role and you want, you have some intersection with something, let that be cybersecurity, find your information security specialists and ask them, like, what's the day-to-day look like? You have experts that are doing logging and watching logs and reviewing logs of like when they're seeing activity on the system that alludes to, people coming in. How are we blocking it? What tools do we use? So be curious, be interested, understand that other folks offer their own expertise. And just by being interested in what they do, you build relationships. And once those relationships are built, those are the folks that call you and you call. And the beauty of it is they call you before things hit the fan. They call you when things are starting to creak because there's almost a friendship there. And it doesn't have to be friendship. It could be totally collegial, but just like they trust you to understand the full picture because you showed them an interest in what they do. And I would articulate that it should be genuine. So figure out what part of your own curiosity is enabled or triggered by what these folks do, because it makes it more fun. It makes you more valuable and you build trusted partnerships and relationships.
Great advice from someone who obviously you've been able to follow what you just said. I mean, it's really great to hear. I think people will really take a lot away from what you just shared. As you think about the next 5 to 10 years, what do you believe will change the most about legal departments and the role of in-house counsel?
I think we're starting to see it now, and it will be more prevalent in 5 to 10 years. And it's the idea that you cannot function anymore without being technologically savvy. You need to know how to use the AI tools that your corporation is providing. You need to understand how AI works. In 10 years, you might need to understand how quantum works. And it doesn't have to be that you are a technologist, of course, right? That's not our discipline. Again, that's when you call your partners to help you understand how it works so that you can offer better advice. Being a transactional lawyer, where it was like truly that is your expertise and you didn't need to lean on these technologies if you didn't want to. I think we're really moving away from that, which isn't to say that can't still be your expertise, but it has to be that you have some foundational knowledge of technology solutions that are being heavily leveraged in your organization. So to prepare for that, we have to lean in to learning more about what's in your corporate environment and leveraging those tools. I also think we're going to see much leaner legal offices, right? Like the learning curve of doing legal research and shepherdizing, and that I really think that's going to fall by the wayside. Today, we need the human in the loop to verify that the AI is not hallucinating. In 5 to 10 years, I don't think that will be true. I think your AI chat assistant is going to be able to shepherdize and you'll be able to verify that all of the citations are accurate. And so where we will add value, where we will continue to add value is in the judgment, right? My LinkedIn page says the legal analysis is promptable, the judgment isn't. But with that
Great
comes the
quote.
challenge of how do you train new attorneys? And so that it will be, I think, a challenge as technology streamlines legal processes. And that's, getting our younger attorneys. Is it going to be sort of unpaid internships? Is it going to be an aspect of law school? I don't know the answer to that piece of it, but I do think we'll be leaner and we'll be more tech savvy. We'll have to be.
I could keep talking about this for much more time than we have. There's a lot to be seen, but your assessment, I think, is correct. What are you most excited about for the future?
I'm excited that I don't know what's next.
Mm.
There's a part of me that's like, at this point in my career, I look around and I'm like, oh, I like what they're doing and I like what they're doing. And so how do I learn more about that? Or how can I become a partner in this subject? And so just maintaining the curiosity that has taken me sort of on this wavering trajectory that has been so much fun. I am excited about what quantum's going to look like given how AI has sort of reshaped everything. And so I'm excited about that as well. And I'm excited to lead more. There was a time in my career where I didn't want to be a manager because I didn't want to stop the building of my expertise. And now as I feel very confident about my own capabilities and I get to see that intersection we talked about, like I get to see business strategy and business operations and risk and data and AI and cyber. I just want to keep playing in that area and keep growing in that respect to help be part of the influence and the strategy at a business level moving, as a business continues to evolve that strategy, I want to be part of those conversations. So that's what I'm excited about in terms of sort of what I see as potential for the future of my legal career and then the future of just like technology.
I can't wait to continue to follow your legal career. It's been bright, and I know it's only going to continue to shine. One thing I wanted you to be able to touch on real quickly before our final question. I know you do a lot of speaking. You shared it's your first podcast. You never would have known it. Tell us a little bit about what you speak about and to whom.
Yes. I speak on cybersecurity, of course, and data and AI at a lot of legal conferences. Sometimes I'll speak on those topics across different disciplines. And I also speak on leadership and resilience largely at women's conferences. It kind of blends together because it's those experiences of navigating your career in a bit more nonlinear way that has taught me a lot about, stretching yourself and taking opportunities that you're afraid of and sort of the value and the growth that happens on the other end of those decisions.
That's great. And every guest as I close gets this question. If you could give one piece of advice, looking back, like on your career, what advice would you give your younger self?
I'd say take the opportunities that stretch you. If you're afraid, you're going in the right direction because it's those trajectories that will teach you profound lessons about your capabilities and instill a confidence in your ability to do hard things. And that confidence and that knowledge is going to serve you in leading others and garnering that trust for them to navigate hard things with you.
Great advice. As you've given all along, it's been such a pleasure to dig in on these topics with you today, Tania.
Thank you so much for having me. This was so much fun.